Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are getting right into it and looking at two absolute heavyweights of modern cloud architecture, Kubernetes and Docker. I mean, if you're building literally anything in the cloud, you definitely know these names. But how exactly do they snap together to form the backbone of highly scalable apps? Look, we know you already get the basics, so we're going to skip the beginner stuff today and just break down the actual real-world architectural relationship between these two platforms. People constantly talk about these two tools as if they're about to step into a boxing ring together. You hear it all the time, right? Docker versus Kubernetes. It kind of makes you wonder, are these incredibly popular tools fiercely fighting for the exact same job in your tech stack? Well, let's dive into this. And to get to the real answer, we've got to first nail down the fundamental concepts driving both of them. Everything starts right here with containerization. So imagine you're moving to a new house. Instead of awkwardly carrying every single loose plate, book, and chair out the door one by one, you pack everything perfectly into standardized sealed boxes. That is exactly what containerization does for your software. It totally isolates the app from the host system, making it incredibly lightweight and portable. This basically ensures your environment stays perfectly consistent, whether it's running locally on a developer's laptop or out on some massive cloud server. But, there's always a catch. Once you have a few of those neat little containers, life is great. But what happens when your application absolutely explodes in popularity and suddenly you have literally thousands of these containers running all at once? Without a manager, it's basically like a massive warehouse with zero inventory system. Just total chaos. And that brings us to concept number 2, orchestration. Orchestration is the process of completely automating the deployment, scaling, and daily management of those containers. Because when the scale gets way too big for a human to handle manually, orchestration steps right in to keep all that chaos totally under control. Section 1. Docker. Packaging the app and shipping your code efficiently. All right, so now that we've got those core concepts down, let's look at our first specific tool, Docker. This is the platform entirely dedicated to tackling that first concept we talked about, containerization. It lets developers easily package, ship, and run their apps inside those isolated containers. You can really think of Docker as the ultimate shipping company for your code. Because it bundles the application right up with its environment, it entirely eliminates that classic age-old developer excuse of, well, it worked on my machine. Docker just ensures that environments stay incredibly lightweight and perfectly portable. Moving on to Section 2, Kubernetes, the orchestra conductor, automating deployment and scaling. So, as we established, massive scale brings incredible complexity. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the exact dynamic at play. Our source material describes Kubernetes perfectly. It's like an orchestra conductor, ensuring that all the containers work together in harmony. Just think about a real-world conductor for a second. The conductor doesn't actually play the violins or the cellos or the flutes. The conductor simply stands at the front, leading the musicians, making sure everyone comes in at the exact right time, the right tempo, the right volume. Kubernetes does the exact same thing for your software. It doesn't actually run the application itself. It leads the containers that do. Diving just a little deeper into what Kubernetes actually does, we see it's a pure orchestration platform. It takes over all the heavy lifting of deploying the containers that Docker creates. So let's say suddenly your website gets a massive, unexpected spike in traffic. Boom! Kubernetes automatically scales your operations up, deploying more containers instantly to handle the load. And then, when the traffic dies down in the middle of the night, it scales them right back down to save you money. It is just constantly working in the background to manage the overall harmony and health of your entire system. Section 3. Key differences explained. Containerization versus orchestration. Okay, with those foundations laid, let's set up the ultimate head-to-head matchup and finally put the supposed rivalry to rest. What's really interesting here is just how distinctly different their jobs actually are. When you look at them side by side, you realize, wait, they aren't competing at all. Notice that over on the left, Docker is laser-focused on containerization. Its primary job is to package and run your apps. It creates the individual puzzle pieces. But then, look at the right side. Kubernetes is focused on orchestration. Its whole job is to automate and manage those puzzle pieces. Simply put, Docker builds the containers and Kubernetes organizes them. So the big question, when exactly should you use which tool? Well, if you have a simple application, maybe a basic internal tool or a really small website that relies on just a small number of containers, Docker alone is highly likely to be your go-to. I mean, you simply don't need a full conductor for a one-man band, right? But notice that shift on the bottom row. When your application complexity really scales up,
and you find yourself juggling a vast number of containers, Kubernetes becomes the incredibly necessary choice to keep your systems online.
Section 4. Real-world e-commerce example. Building a scalable application. Let's step away from the theory for a minute and look at a highly practical scenario to see how these tools actually perform out in the wild. Imagine you're building a massive e-commerce app, and Black Friday is right around the corner. Step 1. You gotta prep for a sudden, massive influx of a huge number of users. Step 2. You bring in Docker. You use Docker to containerize your app, putting your web servers, shopping cart logic, and payment processing into neat, perfectly portable containers. Step 3. You bring in Kubernetes. You use it to orchestrate those exact containers, setting up rules so that when the traffic absolutely floods in, Kubernetes instantly commands Docker to multiply those web servers and handle the crush of eager shoppers. And what is the ultimate result of using Docker and Kubernetes together as a unified team? Your system becomes highly scalable, entirely reliable, and incredibly efficient. It's the whole package. Because of Docker's neat packaging and Kubernetes' brilliant orchestration, your e-commerce site simply won't crash when that traffic spikes. They work together in perfect harmony to deliver a completely seamless experience for your users. So the next time someone asks you about the epic battle between Docker and Kubernetes, you can confidently tell them they aren't competitors at all. They're literally the ultimate collaborators. They're fundamentally better together. Which leaves us with just one final question. Armed with the incredible power of containerization and orchestration, how will you build and orchestrate your next big idea? Keep learning, keep building, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.